From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
In an instant, life changed for one North Dakota farmer.
I've adapted in a lot of ways.
How he's learned to cope and heal while helping others. The numbers are in. Pro Farmer releases its production estimates.
That's a big change to the supply side of the balance sheet.
The winners and losers in the yield war and what the crops need in order to make it to harvest right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Following Crop Tour, people at Pro Farmer had a lot of number crunching to do in order to come up with its production numbers for corn and soybeans this year. Those numbers showing just how much drought and other stressors are impacting the crops right now. Pro Farmer taking the numbers from the 7 states from the tour and combining them with historical data and other factors to come up with national yield expectations. Now, this is Pro Farmer's own official forecast. It's putting corn at just over 168 bushels to the acre. That's a drop of almost 9 bushels from last year's Pro Farmer prediction. USDA earlier this month calling for just over 175. Soybeans coming in at 51.7 bushels an acre, down less than 1% from last year, while USDA predicting a slightly bigger crop.
And if these estimates are right, soybean side of the balance sheet, not a lot of change from what USDA saw on August 1. But on the corn side of things, like I said, we're taking about 500 million bushels off of USDA's August 1 estimate. That's a big change to the supply side of the balance sheet. And I don't see a lot of places where they can make adjustments on the demand side.
Pro Farmer also releasing a state-by-state breakdown. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, Pro Farmer says it hopes its corn yield and production estimates are too low.
Well, Clinton, we compared Pro Farmer's numbers to USDA's state yield estimates in the August WASDE to determine the biggest misses in the east and the west. Soybean yield projections were all within 1 to 2 bushels of USDA. However, corn yields were all below USDA's estimates, ranging from 2 to as high as 17% in South Dakota. Pro Farmer is pegging South Dakota's corn yield at 122 bushels per acre versus USDA's 147 bushel figure in August, a 25 bushel drop. The crop in the southeastern corner of the state faced several stress periods during the season, starting out with delayed planting and hot, dry weather at pollination.
The heat that we had during pollination is showing up in some of the ears that we've sampled because of some shotgun pollination, not getting pollinated on the butt of the ear or on the tip of the ear.
Intensifying drought in the post-pollination period in southeast South Dakota also resulted in low ear counts and reduced kernel depth. In the eastern Corn Belt, Ohio was the biggest loser. Pro Farmer projecting yields for the state at 175 bushels per acre versus USDA's 190 BPA estimate in August. That's a 15 BPA drop or a 7.9% difference. Delayed planting and replanting were followed by heat and dryness during pollination, which hurt grain length, and late season rain came too late.
We saw this field here had some tip back issues, so it's aborting some kernels at the end of the ears and stuff like that. And so I think that whenever you have issues through the growing season, they kind of show up as you progress toward harvest.
This follows what Grady says was the best corn crop he'd ever seen in Ohio in 2021. So the market may be expecting some revisions when the USDA does their first objective field surveys for the September WASDE report that comes out on the 12th.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now, for a complete wrap-up of all the numbers from Pro Farmer and from Crop Tour, you can head over to agweb.com/crop tour. Parts of the South saw historical amounts of rain last week, but even more is on the way this week. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with a look ahead.
That's right, Clinton. More rain is likely across parts of the South, including areas of Texas. Take a look at this map right here. The precipitation expected this week, much above normal for parts of West Texas and North Texas as well, where those areas did see a lot of flooding as we headed through last week. But anywhere from the southern Rockies and parts of the Southwest all the way up into the Northeast is where we're expecting more than average rainfall this week. Now, take a look at this map. Heading into Monday, already starting to see some of those showers and storms. It'll be a little bit less in parts of Texas and the Southwest until we get towards the latter half of the week, but more rain still in the Southeast and parts of the Mid-Atlantic, especially as we head through Monday and into Tuesday as another system is moving across parts of the east. Meanwhile, high pressure, mild temperatures in the north and back in the west. It's going to be sunny and hot yet again. And if we look at this jet stream, the jet stream not changing all that much, except some cooler air trying to come into the northern Great Lakes. That will keep things unsettled through this week, but also allow the heat and the humidity to keep building in the west as we head through this week and into September. And we want to take a moment to thank all of the scouts who participated in this year's Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan taking this picture of a couple of them hard at work. And she says, while crop conditions change every year, what remains the same is the dedication and passion from the scouts. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
We talked a lot about Crop Tour last week. Up next, a hard look at what it all means for fall prices next. And later, a farm accident can happen in an instant. We'll hear from a North Dakota producer who survived today in the country.
My name is Betsy Gibbon, and I'm the media director of Ag Market Consulting. And I work closely with this guy, Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. And we want to wish you, AgDay, a happy 40th birthday. And while I personally don't know what it's like to be 40, this guy sure knows what it's like to be old.
Yeah, I guess I know what it's like to be 40, but whenever we're talking age, it doesn't seem that much. I'll tell you what, 40 years of a show is pretty impressive though, so we want to wish you a happy 40th.
Just as shipping companies start to catch up, analysts expect a pullback in demand. Citi is cutting its outlook for major shippers like Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, and Zim, the industry responsible for about 80% of global trade. Now, it's expecting a bigger slowdown in global demand due to falling consumption, slower U.S. home sales, and rising inflation. Meanwhile, spot rates for 40-foot containers are dipping, now below $5,000 for the first time since December of 2020. Grain markets trading up double digits to end the week following a week of Crop Tour. Michelle Rook joins us once again with what it all means for prices this fall.
Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady joining us with market analysis. And of course, we did have the Friday Pro Farmer numbers coming out. Corn production, if you look at the lower yield, down about 641,000 bushels. So ending stocks could be tightened quite a bit here.
Absolutely. You know, our estimate would tighten up the supply side of the balance sheet, and that means that there's demand implications because you're going to have to slow down the demand. You just can't tighten it that much and not have some demand impacts, and so that'll play out over the course of time.
So that production and yield really lowered here as the Eastern Corn Belt really didn't make up for the West, did they?
Right. The Eastern Corn Belt has a great corn crop. It just doesn't have a big enough corn crop to offset all the damage done in the West and other areas around the country. And, you know, that's the bottom line is just not enough out east.
So USDA has some work to do for the September WASDE, don't they?
Absolutely. And USDA probably won't come down as much as what our estimates are. These are final estimates for us, and so USDA has some time. They have September, October, November, and then January for the final to get there. I would anticipate it will be somewhat of a stair step down instead of a big chunk down.
So, Brian, do you think corn prices have to go up quite a bit to price this in?
Well, I think they will, and what they need to do with prices is go up enough to slow demand. And then you got the flip side of the coin is once we do that process, we know that the price is eventually going to back down. Now you have to rebuild your demand base, and so there's some potential longer-term implications there.
So kind of a tale of two crops. Soybeans, your estimate came out on yield and production very close to USDA's last report, and there's still potential there, isn't there?
Oh, I think if anything, we probably would go up from our estimate on soybeans because the pod counts are in the sweet spot that we found over the past 30 years in terms of numbers. And, you know, there's moisture out there. Soil moisture ratings are strong for every state except for Nebraska and South Dakota. So there's enough there to maybe put some more onto that soybean crop into the finish. So from a supply standpoint, I don't think there's an issue market-wise.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, Pro Farmers. Brian Grady. More Ag Day coming up.
AgDay is brought to you by EndZone from Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your EndZone fan by August 29th and receive 7% off.
Meteorologist Matt Yurisovic joining us here, taking a look at our national forecast and precipitation for this week. And looks like some of those places that got a lot of rain last week may be getting more this week.
Oh yeah, right across parts of North Texas, West Texas as well, where we're still under extreme to exceptional drought conditions. We're going to see more rain across Texas and the Deep South heading through this week. And you can see this map right here, much above normal across West Texas and parts of northern Texas, and those areas are where we saw a lot of rain last week and even some flooding as well. Even back into the Four Corners region, though, still seeing more rain in New Mexico, and then those systems really going to stall out across parts of the south and the southeast, even up portions of the New England area and the mid-Atlantic coast. That's where we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that rain as those fronts kind of slowly move eastward. Below normal, though, upper Great Lakes and northern parts of the Midwest and northern Rockies still dealing with less precipitation as things continue to dry out in those parts of the country. And here's a look at the precipitation through this week. A lot going to be going on across parts of the south, and that's because some tropical weather could be moving on in along with some of those stalled out fronts, something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on as we head through this week. And obviously we'll keep you updated on any flooding situations that could be apparent down there in parts of Texas and across the Gulf Coast. Not much going on, though, in the west, as we are going to be seeing very, very warm conditions. Take a look at the temperatures this week. Much above normal all the way up and down the Pacific coast, and above normal all the way through to the east, just really below normal, where we're going to be seeing a lot of those clouds and a lot of precipitation throughout this week. That's all because of this jet stream. It's going to keep things unsettled again right down here in the south, but notice where the ridge is building. Back in the west, it's going to be hot and humid through much of this week, and then keeping it a little unsettled, a little bit cooler there in parts of the northeast and parts of the Great Lakes due to that kind of little trough moving its way on in. But here's a look at our fall temperature forecast. September, October, and November looking near normal for the northern plains and parts of the Pacific Northwest, but above normal across most of the lower 48. And then here's that precipitation forecast for that fall months, September, October, and November, below normal across most of the lower 48. And that's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on as drought conditions could worsen as we head into fall. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Dayton, Ohio, showers likely, a high near 88 degrees. Heading to Waco, Texas, evening scattered showers and storms, a high near 92 degrees. And Pasco, Washington, sunny and hot, a high near 90 degrees.
That old farm equipment sitting behind the barn might be worth some money. Machinery Pete explains next. And later, tips for staying safe around your grain bins and farm equipment this fall season. Close calls and stories of survival in the country.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineryPete.com and click Sell Mine. MachineryPete.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online.
If you have some good used farm equipment you're not using, now may be the time to sell it. Machinery Pete has more.
Well, folks, if you are in possession of a 2007 to 2011 model tractor, combine, skid steer, sprayer in good condition with lower hours, you, my friend, are sitting on a gold mine. Now, I'm sure you know this if you've been following my blog and columns here the last year and a half, 2 years, but the values on these items are just absolutely going through the roof. I've seen just an absolute torrent of record high auction prices. And of course, we're talking pre-DEF, pre-tier 4 items here, and always popular. But with the current situation, with the supply chain mess, can't get new equipment, dealers that are an all-time low, used inventory, the parts issues, availability we ran into, folks are buying these nicest condition pre-DEF, pre-tier 4 units as a hedge against downtime. And again, I'm seeing records all over the place. Now let's drop in, for example, on a sale August 20th in Elmore, Ohio by my good friends at Siefker Real Estate and Auction Company. They sold this 2009 Case H 305, Magnum 305, 1,831 hours on it, went for $189,000. Of course, record high auction price by almost $10,000. The previous record, in fact, was just set back on March 23rd of this year, a big iron auction, one out of Nebraska, and that one brought 179 and a quarter, which shattered a record of 170,000, which stood for exactly 10 years. Now on the same Elmore, Ohio auction, this on the combine side, this 2009 Gleaner R66, 2,177 engine hours on it, sold for $115,000. Now, not quite a record high auction price, but the second highest price in almost 8 years.
All right, thanks, Pete. Staying safe around farm equipment is always important. Up next, a look at some of the life-saving equipment helping rescue farmers from grain bin entrapments as part of our series, Close Calls, Stories of Survival.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com. Close Calls, Stories of Survival on AgDay is brought to you by AGI Bin Manager. From the convenience of your smartphone, you can safely know the condition of stored grain without having to climb your bin to monitor temperature and moisture.
Tragic stories of grain bin accidents are all too common. While they can be prevented, there are also trained first responders in many rural communities who can help rescue those entrapped or engulfed in a grain bin. Officials with the Upper Midwest Agricultural Safety and Health Center say today many first responders are trained in using grain tubes.
The rescue equipment that we typically see are really big plastic tubes. Some of the newer, more updated ones have these rigid bottoms so that folks can actually push that around the person who needs to be rescued. And what that does is really help take that pressure off.
Now, the pressure around a victim, even just knee deep, is equivalent to 1,500 pounds of down pull. So these grain rescue tubes are critical.
Having that tube put around someone helps them to get them out and get them out with as few, injuries, pain, poor outcomes as possible.
Now, there are several companies in ag helping to provide those life-saving devices. She encourages people to contact them to get one for their local first responders. Now, beyond grain bins, a farm accident can happen in an instant. Linton, North Dakota producer Doug Birchler knows that firsthand, as Jody Kurzman of AgDay affiliate KFYR tells us.
Doug Beekler's morning chores take a little longer these days. 5 years ago, Beekler lost his right arm in a farm accident.
I've adapted in a lot of ways.
He's changed the way he stacks bags of feed and even how he closes gates.
Anything that can make things easier, I've just thought about how to do it differently.
Those changes have helped him stay on the family farm and continue living the life he always dreamed of.
Farming and ranching has just always been a passion of mine.
Hi, guys. He also makes time for regular physical therapy and chiropractic care.
I try to do things to maintain my muscles as well as I can, just to make sure I don't injure myself in some other way.
Taking care of his mental health is also now a priority, and something Beekler has become passionate about helping other producers deal with too.
Everyone notices that I'm missing an arm. That's very visible, and people can tell right away that it's probably something that I struggle with. But when you talk about mental health, we can't see that, obviously. So it's something that affects all of us, and it's something that you need support with, and it's something that you should talk about, and it's not something that you should shy away from because we all deal with it. It's not something to be ashamed of.
Good for you. On this day, he's sharing his story with NDSU Extension Farm and Ranch Safety Coordinator Angie Johnson.
Awesome.
Together, they're looking for ways to help end the stigma about mental health in agriculture.
Been nice.
Johnson hopes Beekler's story might help other producers realize they're not alone.
His ability to share his story helps others learn, helps others heal, helps others cope with the different stresses and realize that, you know what, it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. We're going to get through this.
For Beekler, a big part of getting through it is the morning routine.
It's my favorite thing to do.
These chores are something he looks forward to now more than ever. Near Linton, I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
All right, thanks, Jody. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in the farm country.